Today we are going to study about a Kenyan, not just a Kenyan. Do you know that Dr. Julius Gikonyo Kiano was the very first African, very first black Kenyan to get a PhD. So even though we are talking about his political life, but we have to talk about him as the very first Kenyan African to get a PhD. Another day we will talk about Mbio Koinange, Peter Mbio Koinange. Peter Mbio Koinange was the very first African to get a master's degree, a Kenyan African to get a master's degree. So every county has a university. But remember, there was a time in Kenya when the whole country or the whole colony, there was only one. People who were very educated were having bachelor's degree, bachelor's degree, bachelor's degree. And then the very first person to get a master's degree was Peter Mbio Koinange. Then a few people masters. And then the very first person to get a PhD, a Kenyan, was Dr. Julius Gikonyo Kiano. Gikonyo in Kikuyu means the umbilical cord. He is related to me. I know someone will say, hey, Bwana, you are related to everybody. Yes, just like the Vice President Wamalwa Kijana, I can trace my lineage, blood lineage, to Mrs. Jane Kiano. I can trace my lineage to Mrs. Jane Kiano. I will do that after I have talked about Julius Gikonyo Kiano, because Mrs. Kiano is an aunt of mine on my mother's side. Even though among the Kikuyus, you see, not Wiluyas. I'm neither a Luya nor a Kikuyu. But among my Luhya people, they say cousin wa cousin ya cousin ya cousin yangu ni cousin yangu. But Kikuyus, they only trace to akifikisha 5 is too much. So my mother has a traceable background, a blood relationship to Jane Kiano. Now let us start with Dr. Julius Gikonyo Kiano. He was born in 1926 in Githugi, Githiga, not Githugi. In Githiga in Kangema in 1926. He went to Waithaga Primary School, and he went to Kagumo Intermediate. You hear of Kagumo TTC? It was an intermediate school. Now, what was the difference in those days between intermediate and primary? Those days, primary used to end up in standard 4. So intermediate was 5, 6, 7, and 8. So when you have 6 or even 4 primary schools around, then one of them will have standard 1 up to standard 8. These other surrounding ones will have up to standard 4. Just like during my time, you'd find so many secondary schools, and one secondary school in the locality has Form 5 and Form 6. So one school in the locality has Form 1 up to Form 6, and others have Form 1 up to Form 4. Others even up to Form 2, those which used to be called private school or Harambe school. So he went to Waithaga Primary School, standard 1 to 4. Then he went to Kagumo Intermediate from standard 5 to standard 8. Then in secondary, Form 1 to Form 4, he went to Alliance High School. When he went to Alliance, he went to Makerere College during his A level. Those days, we had no university in East Africa. Makerere was a college. That is where he went for his A level, Form 5, Form 6. If you ask me today, my opinion as somebody who has been up to Form 6, I believe that diploma is equivalent to A level. That is my opinion. Then from there, he went to Antioch College in the USA in 1948, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce in 1952. He was so much interested in cooperatives. He believed that cooperatives would build Africa natives in the Kenyan colony. But then again, he went back. You see, he got a Bachelor of Economics in 1952. He went back for a second degree that I think this must have been a master's degree. He went for a master's degree in economics and political science and graduated in 1953. From that time, he went back to Berkeley University in the USA, where he got his PhD in September 1956. Then around 1958, 2 years after coming back, he was elected into the Legicor. He was the first among the first Africans to be elected. No, first of all, 1956 is when he graduated with a PhD. Nilikuwa nimeruka. 1956 he did his he was taken he had his PhD and came to Nairobi and was the first African lecturer to be admitted in the Royal Technical College. He was the first African lecturer there, 1956 September. Let us say 1957. He was employed as the first African lecturer there. Do you know where the Royal Technical College is? The Royal Technical College was later upgraded to be called Nairobi University. And then, just like those who know, there are so many places like Kaimosi. Kaimosi TTC was converted into Kaimosi University. And Kaimosi TTC had to be taken to Chebtulu near Kaimosi Boys to be a diploma teachers college. So that is what happens when the university grabs. Let me use the word grab. When the university grabs the compound and infrastructure of a college, the college is built elsewhere. This happened when later on the Royal Technical College was grabbed by Nairobi University, and the Royal Technical College was built near the railway station and was called Kenya Polytechnic. And then in 1958, Julius Gikonyo Kiano entered politics as the first person to be elected as the member for Kangema. Waluya wanapenda kusema Kangemi. The first MP for Kangema. Kangema was later split into two, where Kangema remained, and the other one was called Kiharu. Kiharu later was changed to Mbiri. I think it was first of all changed to Mbiri, then later it was changed to Kiharu. He was very close before Kadu and Kanu joined. He was among those people. You know, when Kenyans were fighting to have Jomo Kenyatta released, my uncle, by then he was not my uncle, Julius Gikonyo Kiano, was against Jomo Kenyatta being released. He was among those people who were saying, why don't we just have independence? After Kenya becomes independent, then we will decide which prisoners to release. I'm saying this because when you see a presidential candidate from a certain tribe, you support him or her very much. When you support him or have very much, it reaches a time when he becomes the president, you'll find that he goes closer to people of his tribe who are against him than you. Anyway, I don't know whether Gen Z follow that, but that is what used to happen. So when Kenyatta came out, he became closer to Kenyatta and stayed as a minister for commerce and industry for a long time. When change the constitution came, he was among those people who sided with Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. He sided with Daniel Toroitich arap Moi for a long time, and Daniel Toroitich arap Moi took over in 1978. So he became an MP for only 1 year. Then he lost the seat to Kenneth Stanley Njindo Matiba, and he never recovered the seat. You see, Kenneth Stanley Matiba was very powerful and whatever, and they had deep pockets. That is how Julius Gikonyo Kiano did not make it. The president, Moi, used to give him, there's a time he was even the chairman of IDP and whatever. Now, I want to talk about my aunt, Mrs. Jane Kiano. When Julius Gikonyo Kiano came from abroad, he had a black American wife. He had a black American wife, and I don't know how she used to embarrass him, and she even used to embarrass the Kenyan government. And Julius Gikonyo Kiano was unable to divorce her. What happened? You know, she never revoked her U.S. citizenship. She never revoked it. And then then when Kenya gained independence, it also came up with a policy that you should not have double citizenship. So she chose to retain the American citizenship, even though her husband was a Kenyan. She caused a lot of embarrassment. I don't know what kind of embarrassment, because nobody has ever told me, and those who are supposed to tell me are no longer alive. Jomo Kenyatta ordered the then Minister for Immigration to declare her persona non grata. Persona non grata. So she went back to her country of America. She was a black American. And then Julius Gikonyo Kiano went to Tumutumu, to the Mberea Nguyo, and married a daughter from Mberea Nguyo. Yeah, my maternal grandmother, she, and even Peter Kuguru's late mother, Margaret Wanjiku, they are both Are Guyo, or can I say Mware wa Guyo for each one of them. So that is how I am related to Bio Koinange, because according to Kikuyu tradition, I've had her even talking to Peter Kuguru. She used to call Peter Kuguru cousin. So if she calls Peter Kuguru cousin, then she would call my mother cousin. But according to the Kikuyu description of a close relative, in Kikuyu land, she's considered a distant relative of my mother. But among Luhya, the cousin of a cousin of a cousin of a cousin of the other cousin is my cousin. Thank you.